welcome back. So, I started the stream last time. Make sure my mic's working right. Should be. Okay, it should be working. Started the stream last time. Um, Talking about fame, celebrity, influence, and how they have and still are playing a role in society today. So, I will be dissecting a video as I introduce the person of interest that I mentioned last time, Shiraz Hassan. Um, People who are out west might already know who he is. Apparently, he deals with Hollywood and also Bollywood. For those who don't know, Bollywood is pretty much Hollywood over in India. Very significant, as I will dive into that. So, term of the day, isopraxism. So this word can actually describe why people in social groups act the way they act. It explains it almost perfectly. They dress alike, they talk alike, they do all these other things that makes them alike. Give me 1 second. Alright, sound is great. Now there's going to be some things that I'm going to break down, and this is based off of just, I'm going to kind of give a perspective on what I see when I'm looking into something or situation, and I will be breaking down his story. He has his own journey that he describes as I pull it up on screen. That's the wrong one. Let me make sure I got the right. I have to share screen. 1 second.
My father passed away. Immediately, I left school, no education, and I was forced to work in my family restaurant business in London. I'll never never forget, I was working with my mom, couldn't go to school, and every day I'm in a cafeteria. Every morning I was waking up at like 5 in the morning till around 3, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, 7 days a week. And I'd be telling my mom, I really want to study. And my mom said, look, right now, I really want you to be with me.
Shiraz's remarkable journey began in London in 1991.
Every day I had dreams, I had goals, but I said, oh my God, is this my life? Going into a restaurant? And then I said to my mom one day, I said, you know what, Mom? I want to try something different. You can run the daytime, I want to run the nighttime. Let me do something different. I'm so bored sitting here in the daytime, same routine. I want to open the first 24-hour restaurant in London.
At the age
Now, let me touch in on this. So notice how some people, they're forced to work, forced to do things, and they just kind of relax back. They're bored. He's not asked to do anything extra. He's not asked to be extravagant. He's not asked to do anything. I want you to notice how he pretty much, like, his answer to being bored, instead of it being, okay, let me relax and chill and life come at me as it is, he takes a completely active look on life. Like, there's some people that react to life passively. Things just happen and then they just react to it. Most people are that way, I think. But I want you guys to see how he pretty much makes an effort to, he's like, hey, let me work more. Let me do more. And that's one of the first terms I want to kind of bring to light, with his ability to take initiative. So he's in action, and that's a good quality for someone to have. It can be dangerous, as he'll keep diving into it, and I'll touch into it later. But he's already shown an ability to be somewhat of a pioneer. He's doing something. He wants to be the first, 24-hour place in London. That's exactly what he said in his words. That's he's already shown the effort of being a pioneer. So let's dive right back into it.
Restaurant at nighttime, there were no customers, 0 customers. I worked the whole night. Then I worked the whole night again. And I remember I used to go home and I used to have a little bag, small little bag, and I used to have coins and a few notes. After a few days, I said, Mom, I made this much at nighttime, this much at nighttime. And my brother would say, Shiraz, it's costing us more money staying open. I said, no, I believe it.
I want to go back in the day to your job making sandwiches.
Now, earlier I had said there's dangers too. There can be dangers to being a pioneer, to being to taking initiative, and this is one of them. If you don't plan things out properly, you run the risk of failure. So he was having the restaurant open late, and there were no customers. So even though he was there, even though he had the restaurant up and running, he had everything he needed to make it run. He was being a pioneer, the only 24-hour joint in London at the time. Population of millions in the UK. So I'm guessing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in London. And one restaurant open, and no customers. So I want you guys to see how he progresses from there.
Hours were you keeping? What were the big sellers?
I was the night shift. I would start at around 8 p.m. and follow all the way through to like 7 a.m. 7 days a week.
Now, initially, though, your sandwich shop was not 24 hours.
No.
I think this is a really fascinating part of your early
Journey,
business.
yeah.
You had a cafe that shut at night.
Yeah, basically what happened was I was studying, I was at school, and my father passed away when I was 16, which forced me really to get into the family business. And then I was working with my mom every day, in the cafe, and I said to my mom, I got to do something else. When we first started off, we was in a small cafe in...
So he had a desire to do something. That's very clear. Let's continue.
place, we took bigger premises. That's where we came up with the name Tinseltown.
But let me tell you where I got.
So they came up with the name Tinseltown. I don't think if you guys remember that. It sounds familiar to me because I was like, okay, Tinseltown sounds familiar, but it's like I've heard of it, but it's one of those things where you've heard of something, but you don't know where it came from. So I don't know if he actually coined that name or not, but like you said, he acquired places.
Back there, from a small little place, we took bigger premises. That's where we came up with the name Tinseltown.
But let me tell you.
Okay, so they acquired more and changed the name to Tinseltown.
Where I got my breakthrough is about at least 2 months of me opening every night. Every night. Imagine, that's the kind of perseverance that I had. I'm staying up from like 7 p.m.
All right, so up to this point, he shows initiative. He shows, what can I say, a hard work ethic. He also, unfortunately, a lack of planning. Unfortunately, but despite the lack of planning, he had the idea. He was like, hey, he had a concept. He didn't exactly plan it out because he didn't have a way of. I don't think he really thought like, oh, how many people actually want to eat past midnight, or I don't think he did any actual research, but he did it. He still did the thing, and like I said, that's one of the dangers of being a pioneer, taking initiative. If you don't plan properly, that's really where the danger comes in. So he didn't show a good ability to plan, but I want you guys to notice how he makes up for that. Despite not planning, there are a series of events that happen where his lack of planning actually didn't hurt him.
All the way to like 6 a.m., 7 days a week, no customers for a couple months, until one day my destiny changed. A taxi driver comes in and he says to me, Shiraz, give me a tea or coffee and give me a sandwich. The guy was in such a hurry. And I said to him, what's the hurry, man? Sit down with me, man. Let's chat. We've got the whole night. And the guy said, no, I've got to listen to Caesar the Geezer. I said, who's Caesar the Geezer? He said, you don't know who he is? I said, I have no idea. And he said to me, this guy has 1 million listeners right now. And this was like, I don't know, 3 in the morning. And I looked at him and I said, 1 million people are awake in London and I'm open? I need to meet Caesar.
All right, so this is where taking initiative, is great. He realizes the benefit, like instantly. Like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, wait a second. I have an open restaurant. There's 1 people that are awake. So there's people awake listening to this guy's show, meaning there's people who might want some late night food. So he instantly put 2 and 2 together, and straight off the bat he was like, I need to get there. I need to get on this guy's show. I need to talk to this guy. I need to do something. Like I said, didn't plan. I don't believe he really planned it, but properly. At least he doesn't say he did. But what I will say is, when it comes to that taxi driver, notice how he didn't just like, oh, here's your food, have a nice day. No, he was attentive. He noticed some things about the driver. Of course, late night. I'm not sure if it was one of those usuals that he had, but notice how he strikes up a conversation, just to kind of fish for some information, which led him to understanding or gaining a certain amount of exposure to Caesar's show. So if he had not opened up like he did, he wouldn't have been able to gain the exposure necessary on Caesar's show. And to be honest, without that exposure, there might not be no him. So I want you guys to see how he opens his mouth, takes initiative to kind of see like, okay, what's going on with the taxi driver, because it wasn't just a situation where he just wants to talk to the taxi driver. It was a situation where I believe it was more so like he was genuinely interested. Like maybe he was bored, maybe it was something like that. But if you're in a situation, you might not even realize all the opportunities around you, and that's really what I've grown to understand. There are opportunities all around you, and if you just open your eyes, if you expose yourself to certain things, there's no telling where you could put yourself. Like to be honest, because like I said, in this situation, taxi driver one random night, nothing special, nothing different, and he just sparks up the conversation like, hey, what's going on? And then he learns about the show. Then it sets, I don't want to say a plan in motion because, like I said, I don't really think he really planned it out like that, but it's in some way, shape, or form, it did set a plan in motion.
Literally the next day, every day I'm ringing this radio station, ringing the radio station, ringing the radio station. Finally, I get through to him. I get so nervous, by the way. I've never been in media. I've never been on radio, nothing. And he said, who do I have? I said, my name is Shiraz. I got so nervous, I just started saying my menu. Oh, we do burgers, we do omelets, we do teas, coffees, and we're open all night. Caesar basically said, whoa, 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 stop right now. You're open? I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, where are you located? I gave him the address. That's it. Radio interview finished. The next day, around midnight, I had so many cars, so many cars, so many cars coming, and there was a rumor that Caesar's coming because he had mentioned on the radio afterwards, if there's a place open in London, I'm going to go down there. Literally, my whole restaurant started getting busy. It was packed. It was busy, busy, busy. And I started asking him, oh, yeah, do you like the food? Oh, no, we're here.
Oh, talking on me again. I'm gonna get used to this. But he talked on perseverance, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So a lot of people, you might come up with a plan, you might take initiative, but notice, you remember how I said he didn't plan it properly. But despite that, he knew, okay, eventually, the longer this place is open, the more customers we can get, or he gets more exposure to customers. So it was a basic concept. So I don't want to necessarily say he needed a plan for that, but I'm guessing he knew of 24-hour places. He just wanted to be the first one in London. So, first to market. On top of that, I also want to talk about how he pretty much took advantage of the radio situation. So I believe he kind of put two and two together where he knew he needed exposure, and he needed exposure to his restaurant, which I'll dive into that a little bit shorter later in the video, probably after this next clip. But where the perseverance comes into play, very importantly, is you're going when you do something. It might be a brilliant idea, but at first, a lot of people might not be able to fathom it. Crypto was seen as a scam not even 5, 6 years ago. Now it's one of the best performing asset classes in history. The internet, which was prior to crypto, it was literally feared, and people did not believe there would be an interest in sending messages via email or cell phones. Stuff that is basic necessities today. Like no one, I believe no one today operates properly without an email or cell phone. There are some people off the grid, but let's just be real, by majority, cell phones, email, all this stuff is standard today. But back when internet was first being developed, it was seen as a taboo. It was weird. And kudos to him for showing perseverance, despite the failures, because like he said, his brother did let him know, hey, we're actually losing money. And because of that, he knew, okay, I had to do something. So I believe there's also a fire lit up under him. He knew at the end it would be a good idea, because he'd get more sales, he'd get more customers. But like I said, he didn't plan it properly, but he knew exposure was good. And that's actually something that throughout his entire story that remains constant. His understanding on exposure, how important exposure is. Let me dive a little bit more until I get to the next one.
Here to see Caesar. Oh, would you like to know we're here to see Caesar? At that moment in my life, I knew the power of radio, of influence. One guy I spoke to, I'm absolutely dead. This guy influenced his listeners, and now my restaurant is packed. Guess what ends up happening? An hour later, Caesar walks in. He walks in, everyone's coming, taking pictures and taking autographs and all this kind of stuff, networking with this guy, and I'm like, wow. I then say to Caesar, I said, listen, Caesar, I don't know your background. All I know is that you promoted my restaurant and my place is packed. He said, give me a laptop, fax machine, and a cell phone. And by the way, I'm talking about the Motorola, the bricks. Cell phones was a luxury. Laptops, oh my God, if you had a laptop, you were like rich.
All right, let me stop there. So instantly, like I said, he knew, okay, exposure. If I gain exposure, I'd get more customers. Basic marketing concept today. Um, and this is also true in relationships. You need to expose yourself. This is true in business. This is true in life in general. You're going to need exposure if you want to get certain outcomes. And statistically, the more you do it, depending on the success rate or the failure rate of it, you'll eventually improve your odds of achieving that success rate, especially if the success rate is, how can I say it, slim to none or acute. So you're gonna need exposure, and that's one thing I will say. His younger self realized that at a young age. Okay, I need exposure. He showed perseverance. He constantly, you know, opened the restaurant night after night, despite the lack of income. And also, when he found out about the uh, the radio show, instantly, he made an effort. He knew he was like, "Hey, I need to keep calling this guy until I get him on the phone, until I get on his platform, because there's like a million people listening to this thing, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna gain exposure. I'm gonna gain exposure from this guy through his platform because he has a million people listening to him because of his ability to influence them." Now, he talks about how the people that eventually came to his restaurant, like I said, he paid attention. He was out there talking to the customers. Hey, what brought you here? Why are you here? Like, you like the food? And the people straight up told him, we're here because of Caesar. We want to see Caesar. So, like he explained, in short, that's why they were there. Now, Caesar, on the other hand, whom I'm assuming was a big personality back in the day, because if you have a million people literally listening to your radio show at night, you have to be fairly. I mean, even today, that's amazing. Even today, but he had massive influence over his audience, because the moment he shouted out him on the radio show, he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come to your shop." The next day, his shop was packed. Now, what's the benefit to Caesar? Well, unbeknownst to I don't even know if that's a word, but I don't know if Shiraz really realized that he had created value. The value being Caesar wanted food. Caesar knew his value. Caesar knew he had influence. I'm pretty sure Caesar even probably knew. He was like, "Hey, there's a place open late. I'm hungry all the time. You know, I want to eat. You know." And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, he knew he he had influence. He probably done this before where he showed up to a place, but during the daytime, because like I said, he was the first, um, for 24 hours. But he was like, hey, if I show up to this guy's restaurant, I know he's gonna get customers, so let me see if I can strike up a deal. And that's exactly what Caesar did. Caesar was like, hey, give me this, and that, and we're gonna have an exchange where I know, just my presence in itself is bringing to your restaurant a lot of value, a lot of customers. So the value you guys give to me will be food. And that's exactly, what Caesar wanted.
What I did is I spoke to my mom, I spoke to my brother, and I said, listen, can you give me some money? Let me give this guy what he wants.
Now, I don't know exactly how long it took for him to do this. I'm guessing it might have been the first, but I want you guys to realize, and this is something that goes over people's head because earlier, he had just, talked about how he had to show perseverance, how it wasn't as successful and it was actually costing them money. They were actually early on losing money, probably, breaking even here and there, maybe turning a small minor profit here and there. And now, mind you, he's going to his family like, hey, I have this, we had a lot of sales. Of course, he had a lot of sales that night. And he's like, hey, we have a lot of sales. I have this deal on the table with this guy that brought these sales to me. I'm gonna need money. I'm gonna need more money to see this thing through. Imagine the balls you have to do something. There's no guarantees whatsoever. But I don't know, I'm just take that chance.
If I give him that, he's going to promote our restaurant. And he said, you feed me, I promote you. Very simple deal. Literally, my business went from making maybe a couple £1,000 a week to almost £50,000 a week. Literally like that within 3 months. Our place became a landmark in London. I realized.
So it paid off. So he took a calculated risk. Well, I don't know how calculated, but he took a risk. I'm assuming it was a calculated risk, and it paid off. His business is now successful. It is eventually what led up to, I'm pretty sure, them acquiring everything to become a successful business as, as I assume they're known today.
The power of influence. Caesar spoke about my restaurant to all of his millions of listeners, and the whole of London knew there was only one 24-hour restaurant open. And literally at that point, I realized that was my, let's call it my light bulb moment, that I need to surround myself. I need to be in the business of influence. And that's when I
want you guys to realize, how he's able to foresee what exactly the path this can take him. He's able to, kind of project, okay, there's something about this opportunity that I came across. I need to be in this business because it made me money. It's showing, now of course, in his case, it's shown progress. It's shown actual, value. It's shown an ability to make money. So, it's one of those things where he's like, okay, I can do something with this. And like, you remember how I said like he goes from a situation where he's forced to be in it, and he takes initiative and makes the most out of it. So let's note that he takes initiative. He's innovative. He's a pioneer. He's shown perseverance. He's done all this stuff, and then notice how once everything comes to fruition, he's showing a very, very extensive amount of focus on this general concept of influence, and eventually is what's going to set what I assume is like an avalanche of success for his later endeavors outside of his family's restaurant.
I decided, how do I go to Hollywood? I want to go to Hollywood because at the end of the day, the global microphone of influence is Hollywood. I have to go there. No money, no connections, just some basics that I had from my family that they said you can go. I ended up going. Why? Because inside my gut, I said, if I can do this in London, in a small restaurant. I built one relationship with one guy. He took my business from making hardly any money to making so much money. Then I pack my bags, I come to Hollywood.
Then, with no experience, skills, or contacts in the entertainment business, he decided to move to Hollywood with only a small amount of money from his family to get him started.
So he took another risk. He could have stayed. He could have stayed in that situation, had a successful, booming family restaurant, and what does he do? Like I said, he takes initiative. He takes initiative, and he sees a business opportunity. He sees an opportunity, and he's, like I said, takes initiative to see it through. Now, I will touch on the lack of planning again. I'm not sure exactly how. Maybe the rest. I mean, I know over here in America, apparently the margins of profit in restaurants, certain restaurants, most restaurants, is very slim. I think it's like 5 to 7%. But I'm not exactly sure how he went from booming restaurant to now going to Hollywood. With this whole sob story about not having money. I don't know how much of that is exactly true, but let's keep diving in.
Didn't have the money or connections or anything. And I remember I was watching TV and I was so excited. I'm in Hollywood and I'm in Los Angeles, everything's good. And he put on the TV and it was all about Bollywood, the Indian film industry. And I said to her, listen, I've come all the way from London, I want some Hollywood, I want some entertainment, I want some Tom Cruise, some Britney Spears or whatever, I want something American. He said, no, you gotta watch Bollywood. So literally one day.
Now, this is another thing. So, once again, this is another situation where he's exposed to something that he might not have otherwise been exposed to. He wanted Hollywood, and whomever he was living with was like, no, Bollywood. So, like I said, he's again in another situation where, to a certain extent, he's forced to be in the situation, and again, he makes the most out of it.
3 days, 5 days, 1 week now, I'm brainwashed with Bollywood. While I was watching this TV channel, I didn't see one American trailer, one American movie, not an American music video, nothing. In that one moment, look at the belief that I had. I'm going to be the one that connects Hollywood to Bollywood. It's me. I'm the ambassador.
This is a big, bold claim. Notice what he just said. He said, I'm gonna be a pioneer. I'm gonna be the first to do this because no one else is doing this, or has thought of this, or has done it. I'm pretty sure someone probably has thought of it, but just didn't see how to get it done. But big bold claim. He said, I'm gonna be the one to do it. He's a doer, and this really describes a lot of men where we are doers. I mean, I have a natural desire to just do stuff. Like, I can't just sit around eating grapes. Like, even my retirement plan is literally to buy a car garage and work on cars and build stuff. That is my retirement plan. Because I just can't see myself, just constantly going on trips, relaxing, chilling, etc., etc. Like, I'm a doer. I have to be, or want to be doing something. Now, another thing is notice how attentive he is. Like I said, be aware of your surroundings. This is in life. This is business, relationships, everything in general. Be attentive. He's like, while he's watching Bollywood, doing something. Like I said, he might have been forced to watch, and he notices something. Attention into detail. He's like, hey, there's another opportunity here. Let me take advantage of it.
My relative looks at me and says, you're sleeping on my couch, you barely have any money to contribute, and now all of a sudden you become the ambassador? Absolutely. I said, how do I get hold of that TV channel? Literally what I did the next day, I found the contact information of that TV channel, and I cold called them. Out of the blue, I cold called them. Called the guy, I found out who's the CEO of this TV channel. I'll never forget, the guy said the guy's name's called Harry. So I said, okay, no problem. The next day, I called the TV channel. I said, I want to speak to Harry. My name is Shiraz from Tinseltown. I started giving this whole pitch. You need to put me through to the CEO. I get through to the receptionist. He puts me on the phone with the CEO. And basically what happened, I pitched this guy. Remember, I had no experience, I had nothing. I said to the guy very simply, I want to bring the biggest stars from Hollywood to Bollywood, and I'm your guy. I want to set up a meeting. Now, here,
So again, I touched on it earlier. Perseverance. He's talking about, two massive industries, Bollywood and Hollywood. Industries that people to this day, trying to constantly crack into it. And, he's like, hey, I'm sleeping on my relative's couch over here in Hollywood watching Bollywood. I came up with this idea, this concept that I want to see through fruition. I'm going to be the one to do it. Again, taking initiative. I mean, you guys are, you guys are gonna should like after watching this video, these words should be stamped into your skull. The only one I don't have right now up is initiative, but I've talked about it enough. Taking initiative, taking action, not just stuck in the analysis paralysis phase. He actually gets out there to do. Like I said, as men, you are a doer.
I've got to bring in my X factor. I've got to bring all my tools. I've got to bring everything right now. But I didn't have anything. But I had a dream and I had a vision. I said, you know what? If I can convince these people to give me a TV show, I will find a way and get the biggest stars from Hollywood and promote them to Bollywood. Literally within 2 hours, I convinced these guys. I said, I don't have anything. Okay, I'm a humble guy, but I'm on a mission. If you give me a distribution platform that can reach the entire world in the Indian market, South Asian market, I will deliver it. And if I don't, you can cancel my contract.
Now, he takes accountability. He doesn't play around. He's like, hey, this is a big deal. This is a big concept. He said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Because remember, there's no risk to the people involved here. I mean, I don't think he really asked for money. He's just asking for a deal. He's like, just give me a contract that allows me to get exposure for this content, and I'll get it done. And if I don't get it done, cancel the contract.
Literally that same, before I left their offices, I had a signed deal that guaranteed me distribution in 130 countries with 500 million reach. I then come back to Los Angeles. Where do I go? I go to a camera shop. I start getting my team together. And then one day, I'm at the Hollywood sign. And I'm literally at the Hollywood sign and I'm praying.
So he got that deal creating value. He created value, and that produced the deal.
And I'm saying to God, God, I've got this big opportunity. I've got this big chance that I've got this huge TV show. How can I make it? How can I take all the stars from Hollywood? Because I can see it. I'm on this mountain right next to the Hollywood sign. I said, if Hollywood is this small, then I can make this happen. But the problem was I didn't have any stars. So every day I would be going up to the mountain, and I'm praying at the Hollywood sign, asking God for guidance, and nothing's happening, right? And then one day, a guy was walking his dog, and he said to me, what are you doing at the Hollywood sign? Praying. Why are you praying at the Hollywood sign? I said to the guy, I have this deal. I told him the whole story, how I got this distribution deal. He said, a distribution deal? You have no stars and you've got distribution to the entire Indian market globally? I said, yes. So he said, okay, come and see me in my office. I go to his office the next day. He said, I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine. If he does a deal with you, he'll get a piece of your show. I said, let's go.
So let me stop that. So again, he was out and about minding his own business. What happens? Opportunity comes. He opens his mouth. He's polite. He's talking to the guy. Yada yada yada. Things come up. Guess what? The guy finds out he has a big deal to gain exposure in Bollywood. What happens? Opportunity. You guys noticing a pattern here? It's the same thing over and over. It's the same guy. Same guy. You guys noticing the pattern? And this is why I wanted to dive into this guy, because he has become one of the most influential people on the face of the planet today. And look at the qualities he possesses. A pioneer. Most people are pioneers, that's fine, but look how he's able and willing to take initiative. He might not technically be the best planner. You might be looking at a story and listen to, just listen to a story. It's not like he perfectly planned everything out. There were series where he was just in the right place at the right time, like that taxi driver came in, he gained exposure, he was attentive. You see, he was able to gain exposure because he was attentive, he was just give the taxi driver some food. He opened his mouth. He was up in Hollywood. What did he say? He was at a park or something. I forgot. I have to rewind it. And there was a guy he was talking with. He opened his mouth. He took initiative. You know, he was attentive. He was polite. He was nice because, and that's another thing. You have to be nice to, so-called strangers because you don't know who knows who. This is true in business and dating. You don't know who knows who. I think it's, people that screw over people and they just laugh about it like, oh yeah, I did them so dirty, I screwed them over. I do not find any pleasure in screwing people over, even people I know who might deserve it, because there's no telling who they know, what influence they have, who might find out about how I screwed them over, and now they're thinking, okay, I have the ability to do the same thing to them. There is that social construct there where people don't like to be around people that show certain traits, especially towards other people. Because it's like, hey, if they did that to them, they might do it to me. But just notice how, just notice the pattern that this is the pattern I see at each case. He's not a perfect planner, but he's got the foresight. He's able to see things out, and he doesn't just see it. He takes initiative. He gets out there to do it. He's attentive. He talks to people, which brings him even more opportunity. Just notice the pattern here. This is what I see.
I then walk into an office, very big offices, right? Maybe I'm just new to America, right? And the first thing I said to the guy, I said, I don't know who you are. Please don't charge me money. All I'm asking you is one thing. I have an opportunity right now that I've signed a distribution deal with one of the biggest networks in India. But I need this sometime in your career, someone open one door for you. There was some moment that someone helped you. I'm humbly asking, please help me. And by the way, I didn't even know who the guy was. I was just pitching this guy cold in his office. And the guy said to me, my name is Roland Perkins. I'm the co-founder of Creative Artist Agency. And for the people who don't know who that is, that's the biggest talent agency in Hollywood.
So again, he didn't know who this guy was that he was put in front of, but notice how he knew, okay, I have this deal. You seem to be someone of something, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure the guy was dressed nice, etc. But he didn't know who it was. He took initiative. He was attentive, and he gave a pitch. So you're going to need some social. I talk about social skills with one of my other shows, Purpose Driven. I'm going to try to upload those regularly every week. And one of the things I talk about on one of the shows that I don't believe I posted yet is social skills. And like I said, notice the pattern this guy shows. He opens his mouth, he talks. He's not afraid to talk to people. He's not afraid to be nice and talk to people, which feeds him information, which feeds him opportunity. Like I said, I don't believe he knew this, but let's just be real. He knew the value of exposure. That's one thing he learned. Exposure. Whether it was in marketing or whatever, he knew exposure. Therefore, you expose yourself to people. How do you expect, to get the outcome you desire if you don't properly expose yourself to certain individuals, to just people in general? I could be out at a McDonald's and run into somebody, a publicist or something at a newspaper. You see what I'm saying? Exposure, opportunity. Open your mouth. You're gonna need some social skills. Shout out to, I believe it's Before the Billions. He talked about his what is it, the toast, some sort of toast group. I can't think of the name of it, but pretty much they work on public speaking skills.
If not the world, that represents from Brad Pitt to Tom Cruise, the biggest movie stars and music stars and sports stars, athletes in the planet. And I'm with this one guy, and he looks at me and he said, you know what? You've got a deal, you've done everything that everyone dreams for to get distribution, and you have it. The guy basically said to me, he said, if you give me a piece of the show, I'll help you package your whole show. Guess what happened? 2 weeks later, I'm on every single red carpet in Hollywood. They gave me a team. I built a TV show called Tinseltown, and I was interviewing overnight from Tom Cruise to Britney Spears.
Clint Eastwood, and Shiraz is connecting Hollywood to Bollywood.
So now he's going to go through how he was able to get in the position and talk to all these people, get these endorsements, because that's exactly what a lot of this is, because they shout him out, they shout out his show and everything, and he gains even, through this deal, he gains even more exposure. And there's one thing that he will touch on in a later video that is very, very important, and that is, how do you monetize it? How do you monetize it? How do you monetize your celebrity? How do you monetize your influence over whomever follows you? And he touches on it in a later video, I believe. Probably the next video, if I have time here, I might separate this into like a part 2. And he dives into, okay, you have followers, you have people whom are willing to watch, you have exposure. How do you monetize it? And that's one key thing he will explain. I might dive, if I don't get into it tonight, I might dive into it tomorrow night.
A-list stars, not just on the red carpet, even sit-down one-on-one interviews. And literally overnight, I launched one of the biggest TV shows ever, promoting Hollywood to Bollywood, and it was reaching 130 countries to 500 million people. That was my first break, guys, I've got to tell you. But it didn't stop there.
So he achieved what he sought out to do. When he was sleeping on his family member's couch, and he had to show perseverance because they were like, oh, you're sleeping on my couch, how are you going to get this done? You didn't even know what Bollywood was, a few months, a few days or months ago. Yet you're going to be the guy to connect Bollywood and Hollywood. You guys should be picking up on the pattern here. And exactly, what I am seeing in this video and what I'm kind of breaking down for you guys.
Not only did I have access, back then I was then known as the Bollywood guy on the red carpet. Everyone knew me in Hollywood. You want India, you want the Middle East, this is your guy.
His devotion.
Now, like I said, creating value. He definitely showed an ability to create value. And in doing so, it opened up an avenue where he was able to produce income. He was able to gain a certain amount of influence and power. And in his ability to do that, I don't even really think, if you think about it, I'm pretty sure there had to be a monetary, but notice how he's not even talking about money. Money is bound to come. Mind you, the money is bound to come. And that's one thing he's already, in his prior story with the restaurant, the money came once he gained the exposure and he got that influencer, because that's exactly what that guy was. The broadcaster Caesar, he was an influencer. That's what we call an influencer today. Of course, they didn't call him that back then, but influencer today, we try to make it seem like that's only people on social media, when in reality, it's pretty much any and all celebrities, because they influence people to do things. But he definitely created value. He became the niche for, okay, Hollywood, Bollywood, he's your guy. And he coined that market. He etched that market himself. He took the initiative and put that plan in motion himself. At least that's how the story's told.
Devotion to his family is one of his most noteworthy traits. When the Bollywood Awards, also known as the Indian Oscars, gave him the American Dream Award in front of a worldwide audience of millions, he brought his mother on stage and gave his award to her.
I left my mum 2 years ago with nothing.
Now, I'm not going to say this is going to be everyone, but like I said, I'm just sharing what I see, and a lot of the traits you see with him and his success is also prevalent in other successful people. So he might have like a supernatural, desire for this, the work ethic, the perseverance, the foresight, the forethought, the ability to kind of just put everything together. Shoot, maybe even a little bit of luck, but like I said, he exposed himself to people. He was attentive. He opened his mouth to talk to the taxi driver, which brought about opportunity. So what you'll notice is it's 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 who he is that got him to where he is. Because naturally, he's probably just naturally a social person. He naturally just talks to people. You know, I mean, unfortunately, if you're one of those people, I naturally do like to. I'm curious. I like to talk to people, which is one of the reasons why I'm actually doing this as one of my first lives is talking about this guy in general. I like to talk about subjects other people aren't talking about. I like to, dive into certain things. And I guess you could say I like to be a little bit of a pioneer myself. So let me go and put that out there. But he is who he is. He took advantage of two, maybe three situations where he was forced to be in it because now he was forced to work at his family's restaurant. It's practical. It was the practical thing to do. His family needed income. His father passed away. He he did what he had to do. Next, he moved to Hollywood to chase, um, which I can assume is probably, some people might say he chased his dream. I believe he saw an opportunity, and at the same time, he did have dreams. So he chased his dream, but his dream had opportunity. Um, he was sleeping on a relative's couch. He didn't have much, for himself while he was over there, and when he moved, and he was forced to, I guess you could say, I won't say forced, but his relative was like, I watch Bollywood, so he was exposed to Bollywood and took advantage of that situation. Saw another opportunity. Now he's carved a specific niche where he's the guy for he's the bridge between Bollywood Hollywood, and to some extent, even now, like some people, you can become. You ever know what typecasting is? Where it's like, okay, um, like Chris Rock, he's kind of been breaking out of it, getting into more serious roles, but he's seen as a funny guy, and it's kind of hard to break that narrative to break out of that. But like I said, he's a pioneer. Hasan has shown he's a pioneer. He likes to push the envelope. He likes to do things. And if you're being typecasted, like I said, he became the guy for Bollywood, Hollywood, that kind of thing. So like I said, he's now in another situation, like the restaurant where he had, the business from the restaurant that was doing fairly well. Now he's in another situation. I have another business that's doing very well. Am I just gonna sit here and just do this? Like I can do this, make this thing happen continuously, or am I gonna see other opportunities?
Dream. So I reached a certain level in my career. I made the money, everything was successful, it was great, but I wanted more. I said, how can I control Hollywood? How can I take this to another level? Because I'm a guy that always likes to step up my game. I knew
The next part, you can call it savagery. I'll refer to it as ruthlessness and hunger, desire. He's got that drive, and if you're one of those people where this guy, he moved on from what is now at this moment in his story to fairly well businesses. The family business back in UK. He used that, saw another opportunity, moved over to um, Hollywood, pretty much started all over again with his own resources, and built another successful, took advantage of another opportunity he saw, once again pioneering, and has another successful business. And what does he do? He has the money, he has the notoriety, he has all that stuff. He just has that natural desire, and this is something I see in a lot of the top guys. Shout out to Anton Daniels. He talked about this on the show earlier, where it's like he said something to the effect of like when you become more successful, you actually want to do more. to be, like I said, my retirement plan, I don't plan on sitting somewhere, you know, sipping mimosas. I want to build stuff. I honestly, like, I call retirement pretty much to the extent where I do the jobs I need to do. You know, like of course, age wise, 55, 65, whatever you want to say it, to where, your benefits kick in. But it's like I'd see for retirement as in like, okay, I'm in trucking. I'll probably be like, okay, my trucking business, I'm gonna hire somebody to run it for me. Most likely it'll be my son. I'm done trucking because that was the job I needed to get to where I am now. I have everything I need now. Now let me go do stuff. I like cars. I like driving. Let me go work on cars. Let me build stuff. That's my retirement because now I'm able to do stuff that I genuinely desire because I did the practical thing and worked my way to where I will be in the future. Now it might come early or it might come later, but I know it's gonna come just because that's the kind of person I am. And people like him, he's in the category like, the Elon Musks, the Steve Jobs of the world. Notice the character, like just how they are as people, the traits they all have. Of course, it varies, from person to person, but in general, they were all pioneers. They all had foresight. They all had some ability to either properly plan it out or quickly plan things out to implement a plan or take initiative in general. In his case, he was a social person. He got out there. He talked to people. He saw opportunities. He created value, and he took initiative. He was a pioneer.
I knew I had the Eastern world, but I didn't have the Western world. So one day I'll never forget. I was in a coffee shop, and I was with my business partner Paresh, and we were sitting there having coffee. Everything's amazing, and Britney Spears walks in. When Britney Spears walked in, they were like,
So now, we're going into the part in where I kind of wanted to take this, which was how he ties into social media today. If you ever wondered who the heck is, like, why is Paris Hilton famous? Why is Kim Kardashian famous? Why are the Kardashians in general famous? You're looking at the reason why right here. This is why I chose this guy. This is why I find him so interesting because he saw something, you know, he saw something before it was popular, before, it was a thing, and he created a structure for it to where when he created that structure, he perfected it. He had a certain amount of focus where he built upon it, and I'll dive into this probably the next live show. But he showed his ability to build, not just build, but he went somewhere else and built again. And when he got there and did something successful, he built something again. And that's just how he is. That's, to be honest, that's how most men should be. Natural builders. I believe in Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Of course, the best thrive in today's society. Being the best technically means your ability to navigate in business and relationships and socialize with people through the internet and in person. Back then it wasn't necessarily, it was mainly in person, but now there's the internet part. You have to be able to expose yourself. Again, Anton Daniels, he talked about this. Your, well, just, I'm not going to mention too much about it, but, if you're not in his Patreon, you might want to, chime into that because he definitely talks about that on his platform. The importance of your social presence, your internet presence. Now, I do want to kind of, before I end this part, I do want to touch on some things in general. One thing being, let me change the screen, showing the importance of Bollywood in general and also just in general his influence. So let's first look at his influence and how he was able to progress this. because there's another thing he's gonna kind of connect here, and that is the branding. You know, today it's popular where people say, "I am my brand, I am the brand," etc., etc. Well, notice how he worked on um, what he was doing. He realized the value in influence. He realized, you know, he developed a way, his own way, was through a series of opportunities to monetize it for whatever business or concept he had at the moment. And eventually, he goes on to make this, you know, he kind of branches from the Bollywood thing. He builds something again. Let me see if I can get to it real shortly.
Like 20 paparazzi that literally came into this coffee store, this cafe.
So now he tells the story about him and how he started his media company and how it gained success from the whole Britney Spears thing. And this is actually where the ruthlessness comes in, because he exclusively says how he pretty much um, bogarted access to Britney. You know, all those, remember back in the day, all the stuff you saw about Britney Spears, whether it was good or bad, always in the news, always in the press. Um, he played a big part of that. And um, of course, he didn't care for her mental sanity. He wasn't, I don't believe he was actually, at the time, he wasn't exactly working for her. He was more so developing, he was getting paid off of um, the exposure, you know, his crew of paparazzi, which is what he's going into now. When he learns about paparazzi, he sees a group of camera guys. Like I said, opportunity. He sees opportunity, and he takes advantage of. He's like, hey, let me get into this paparazzi game. So he gets into paparazzi, creates this media thing. And if people aren't familiar with paparazzi, you know, when they go out and take pictures of the celebrities, what happens is you sell your pictures to um, companies like news companies and magazine articles. That's how they make their money. Some of them, you know, might have their own blogs or websites where they, you know, have their own thing going. But that's how the paparazzi makes money, and that's another endeavor where he branches off into it. But there was a specific part that I want to kind of talk about where he talks about how ruthless he had to be.
And I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell's going on? All these guys have got their cars left on the street and they're taking pictures of Britney Spears. Boom. I didn't even think anything of it. The next day, my mum calls me and said, Shiraz, congratulations. I saw you on BBC News. I saw you on Sky News in London.
So he talks about how he gained even more exposure because he was around Britney. When, you know, the paparazzi took pictures.
Right, me and my business partner, we locked down all those paparazzi. There's about 15 of those guys.
So he pretty much monopolized them. So all the paparazzi guys, like I said, the ruthless nature. He was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take control of this whole thing." And like I said, him and his business partner, they pretty much controlled all the footage that was being, you know, specifically to, you know, Britney Spears at the time when she was this whole popularity, you know, craze with her. And he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna dominate this whole market of content that is Britney Spears."
And all they did was control Britney Spears' every movement. I'd done a deal with them and I said to them, here guys, I'm going to pay you X amount of money. You now all work for me exclusively. The company's called Hollywood TV. And overnight, guys, I was filming Britney Spears'
So the value he brings here to the paparazzi guys, they get consistent income. Not to mention if they're all working together, because I don't know if you, I mean, just seeing paparazzi, you see how they kind of try to, they all try to fight for the best camera angle. Well, if we're coworkers, it doesn't matter who gets the camera angle. We're all getting paid. The only thing that matters is we want to make sure we continue to get paid by making sure other people don't get that camera angle. So, um, very, very, like I said, innovation and innovation. He was like, I'm gonna control this whole market. Let me make a deal with all these paparazzi guys. Hey, I'm gonna pay you guys consistently. You guys get consistent income. You don't have to worry about, you know, getting out here fighting for all these pictures because I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna pay you just to do your job, to continue doing what you're doing. You're gonna get paid consistently, and all you gotta do is make sure out of you team of guys that I just hired, that you guys are the only one that gets the juicy stuff on Britney.
Every move. When Britney Spears left her house until she came back, it was the meltdown of Britney Spears. But guess what? I was the sole provider for pretty much Britney Spears content. There was only a couple other people that were biggest media channels in the world. Why? Everybody wanted Britney Spears, and I was the supplier of that content.
Like I said, he created yet another company. He was an innovator. I'm not sure how much of a pioneer, because I'm not sure if other people also, I know news outlets have their people that go out on certain situations, but I don't know if anyone ever like went to the paparazzi and bought them off and said, "Hey, come work for my company." I'm pretty sure someone probably did do that, but he pretty much, of course, generating value not only to the paparazzi but to the media companies. He's like, "Hey, I got all this stuff on Britney Spears. I know you guys." I believe he says somewhere in this video where 20% of a lot of these people's, that these platforms' income was literally based around Britney Spears. And he said, "Hey, I got Britney Spears." He created value for himself. And in addition to that, he pretty much, like I said, he did the same. Notice the pattern here. He kept doing the same thing over and over again to lead to the success to where he is now.
Straight after that, I get Paris Hilton as a client. Straight after that, I meet Kim Kardashian.
And he focused specifically. He wasn't like, "Okay, I got this team of media. Let me spread y'all out. Let me send you to this person. Let me send you to this person." No, he literally said, "Hey, Britney Spears." I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know if she was. 20% of any market is quite a large share. So I'm gonna assume, like I said, Britney Spears at that time was the story, the biggest story. Every platform wanted something on Britney Spears. So he literally focused on Britney Spears exclusively. He was like, I'm not gonna send my team after nobody. All of y'all work together and get all the stuff on Britney. He focused in exclusively on her.
And I literally used all of my media connections, all the paparazzi that I had, and I put it behind the biggest stars in Hollywood. And yes, that's right.
Now he's starting to see how he sees another opportunity where he's built this platform through his attentiveness, his networking, all of this stuff. And like you said, he used all his stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I see another way to create value for famous people or people that want to be famous." And that's what leads him to, his company.
When Kim Kardashian was hardly anyone knew her name, it was my company, our paparazzi team that stood with her hand by hand, side by side, and we pushed and we jammed the word Kim Kardashian down everyone's throat.
Now, if you guys don't know, Kim Kardashian, she started her career as Paris Hilton's assistant. And I wouldn't exactly call that a career, but she was essentially a nobody. She was Paris Hilton's assistant. Paris Hilton herself, she was a rich guy's daughter. She wasn't popular either. Now, she became popular, of course, due to a certain someone's influence and ability and platform. Because notice how the business opportunity that he sees now only became possible because of all of his prior endeavors and how they all tie together. They all have a similar pattern on how he saw an opportunity, he took advantage of it, and they all revolved around influence and celebrity and, creating value from it, monetizing it. And it all leads up to what will eventually become, I don't even know how big the industry is. Maybe I have to look into it a little bit more. But I'm talking about billions of dollars of worth here. Social media marketing in general, um, celebrities and their platforms and their ability to market, branding themselves. Which, of course, in addition to working for these celebrities, he also talks about. Let me get to the end of this video.
Everyone's throat. You want to talk about no's? I don't think I've ever heard the word no so many times in my life when it came to the word Kim Kardashian. Everyone would tell me no, but I believed in Kim Kardashian, and I put my entire machine behind Kim Kardashian and many, many other stars that we worked with to make them who they are today. Of course, they had their own team that were doing stuff, but nothing's more powerful than a media machine, like a weapon like the paparazzi that can take you global and create all that breaking news for you. That's what we did.
Is there a panel?
So later on, he talks about how he's doing the stuff with the celebrities, and like I said, he had new business endeavor. He's working. He's using his platform, his status, to promote them. At this point, he kind of developed, or he's in process of developing, what would become his how can I say it? His plan, or his how he makes these people famous. You know, you had Paris Hilton. He kind of dabbled. He didn't, like I said, he didn't work with Britney Spears. He just covered Britney Spears, and then he learned, okay, any publicity is good publicity. That's essentially one of the things he kind of refers to in a later, I believe in this video and another video. And whether it's good or bad, if you're in the news, you're in the news. You're gaining influence because they're talking about you. That's something that's also relevant to Donald Trump. He literally faked his way to fame. He gained exposure. Donald Trump, he gained exposure by lying about his net worth and getting into the fortunes. And that's literally how he did a lot of his business and built the empire he has today. And then, of course, he had the TV shows and stuff, but Donald Trump definitely used his celebrity and monetized it.
Behind it. But then guess what happened? I started working with brands, because brands started coming up to us and saying, listen guys, you are making celebrities famous. How can you make brands famous? My first client ever was Procter & Gamble, one of the biggest consumer product companies in the world. Then I worked with AB InBev. Then I worked with Johnson & Johnson. The list is endless. I worked with huge brands. And
so this all came because he created value. The brands, the big companies, they saw value in him. They're like, hey, we like what you're doing here with individuals and celebrities and stuff. Can you implement this with brands? And that's exactly what he did.
Also smaller brands. We had teams that would manage.
Now, this is where I believe his concept evolves, because remember how I said he was still kind of working out the kinks to his plan, and initially any publicity was good publicity. Now, it's risky because you don't want to be seen as being bad in public, but he names out some of his people, which you will notice they did bad things, and sex tapes, Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, Miley Cyrus, they had some negative things, but it gained them publicity. That's different than a brand. As a brand, as a brand of something, company, you don't want to be seen as negative, so you only want to gain the positive exposure, So that made him develop. He's like, okay, as a brand, you're different. You don't want to be seen out late drunken and all this stuff to get all in the news. So he developed a way where it's like, okay, let me use the positive exposure. Of course, I'm pretty sure he uses platforms and status to also achieve it. But he's constantly developing he's constantly developing and innovating what he's doing in the business, and constantly creating value.
Smaller accounts. And once I built Hollywood TV, I could say I was so blessed. I learned so much. I worked with everybody, guys. I've worked with Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian, Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Priyanka Chopra, the Jackson family. Honestly, the list, I've worked with hundreds of celebrities, and I've built some of the biggest careers. Yes, Kim Kardashian, beginning days to where she is today, our system. Everything I'm teaching you right now, I'm giving you the formula.
Okay. So if you didn't know Bollywood, it's the second biggest when it comes to population. India, in general, it's in India. And India is the second biggest next to China. And of course, I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of how Disney and certain other entities like the NBA and NFL have been trying to break, crack into the China market because of the exposure. The reason for that, if you don't know, is of course, they want to gain exposure, um, generate revenue through people watching their stuff. The more people they have watching, the more exposure to certain brands, which of course marketing, for marketing business reasons. So I don't think there's quite a wealth disparity in India, just like over here in America. Of course, there are the slums and stuff, but why this is relevant is because when you create value and you have people tuning in to watch you or do something with your content, it doesn't matter if you know it's to some extent it kind of does, but it doesn't really matter how rich or wealthy they are in general because out of this large population in China and India, most of them aren't rich or wealthy, but they don't need to be. All you have to do is get them to watch. The reason being ad revenue. People see the exposure they can gain through your thing, and through that exposure, people realize exposure creates value for their brands, their companies. So that's why the more exposure these people, because remember, you know, someone in India might gain exposure through your stuff, and there's an Indian brand of soda, and while people are in India, when they're watching your content, they see the soda commercial and they favor it, and they drink the soda. Therefore, it generates revenue for the soda. But remember, there's plenty of people in India. So Bollywood, like you said, he was in when he first got exposed to Bollywood, it was through a family member when they were in America, California, Hollywood to be specific. So it shows how the exposure on from them watching Bollywood over in Hollywood. Okay, if you're still seeing the same commercials or similar commercials, people are tuning in to this market globally. People that are familiar with it in Asia, they're tuning in globally all over the world. Thus, talking to it with other people, your brand gains more exposure. That's why that's important. So, you know, that's why that's significant. Another thing is the Kardashians. What do you see here? So, of course, you got Kim at the top. Chloe, I believe her net worth is somewhere around 700 million here. I mean, Kylie, sorry. Of course, and again, to the best of my knowledge, all of them worked with him. Of course, he was with Paris Hilton. Kim K was Paris Hilton's assistant. She saw the things he was working on with her. She approached him for this, and the ball kept rolling. And of course, today, 700 million, Courtney 60 million. You know, I find actually one thing I find odd here is notice how in their family they focus on the girls, and I can also relate this. Again, sharing my perspective today, where there's favoritism, of course, in today's society for the women over men. Notice how the focus was specifically on the girls, and he does talk about Kim K's work ethic and everything to get to where she is, because she wasn't just bumming it. She wasn't just a bum. She actually worked, did some work, and he does share that, and I'm gonna show that in the next show. But I did notice here that the three younger ones, the brothers, they earn significantly less. So I thought that was interesting, and I believe their mother, she, of course, like I said, he was responsible for, creating or getting them to where they were. But of course, once they got there, the mother was the one that took over as the manager. But I did find that interesting because, the three guys, all of them, I didn't even know none of them, to be honest. So I don't know if he just didn't work with them or whatever, but, they generated a lot less, and I don't know them as much as I know all the other, the girls in that family. I thought that was interesting. So I believe, let me get to a stopping point here. But there's a lot more to this. There's actually a whole nother video that I plan on diving in this one in general, where he dives a little bit more into, this video is also in the description, but he dives into what he did with Kim K and what made her exclusive. And, not exclusive, but what made her, get to where she was, as a billionaire today. And um, how he implemented his strategy to, ensure that to ensure that happened, and of course his natural qualities, you know, foresight, his decisiveness. If I had to add it in there, his initiative, his ability to take initiative to get things done, his attention to detail, the attentiveness to certain things, his ability to focus on certain things. Like when he started a project, he saw it through. He wasn't jumping all over the place. He saw it through, and he saw a vision, and he saw it through. His history with exposure and publicity when it came to his restaurant, when it came to his when he developed his media company connecting Bollywood and Hollywood, his ability to innovate, think outside the box, do things other people weren't thinking of, find new ways of doing things. Of course, like I said, the constant thing he was doing, he was constantly pioneering, doing things, connecting Hollywood, Bollywood, the thing with the restaurant, where it was open 24 hours. First, the only one in London, contacting the guy, and getting him to, to promote his business and working out a deal in that regard. And creating value, he consistently created value. Whether he knew it or not, his value to Caesar was food. He was open 24 hours. Caesar had his shows going 24 hours. Caesar might not have necessarily wanted to cook his food, and Caesar took advantage of an opportunity. On top of that, Caesar also got, because like I said, he asked for a laptop, a cell phone, stuff that was, meant for rich people, so he definitely got those perks too. He got his business to purchase those things for him in exchange for food. He constantly created value. Both he and Caesar, had an exchange of value. Trying to make sure I got everything, and also his ruthlessness to a certain extent. He didn't care so much as for when it came to generating some exposure for certain clients, if they were willing to stomach it. Like the Paris Hiltons and the Kim K's of the world, she was willing to release a sex tape, to gain more and more exposure. But not everyone see stuff. I've been this way all the time, my entire life. I mean, even as a child, I remember specifically watching commercials, and instead of watching the commercial for what it was, I was literally watching the commercial, and I asked myself, who is this commercial for? Like and I didn't know, of course I was a kid. I didn't know about marketing. I didn't know about, all that the business terminology that people put on it now, the target audience. I didn't refer to it as a target audience, but I was, even as a young child, when I was watching commercials, I was thinking, okay, this commercial must be for moms because moms are usually the ones at home because dad was out working, and I would notice the difference in commercials at certain times of day when I was watching TV. And it was kind of a game that I would play where I would kind of guess like who the commercial was for. So I just think different. That's one of the things I will say. Not too much differently like than how Mr. Shiraz here, how he's able to think a little differently and innovate. I very much would like to do the same thing. I very much would like, am going to do the same thing. I wouldn't say like, but I am going to do the same thing. So that being said, I'm going to end the show here. I'm going to wrap it up. Catch you on the replay, you guys. And again, for those, thanks again for watching. I'm going to end it here.